Did you know that back pain is the most common reason people go to see the doctor? Did you also know that hand and wrist pain are becoming much more common? It's because so many of us are working at home and we're spending hours and hours in front of the computer. If you're a writer, this is probably you. Today, I have 3 tools I want to show you that I use in my home office that help me avoid these types of pain. First, I want to talk about your mouse. If you're using the mouse that came with your computer, you're risking hand and wrist pain. Let me show you why. Typically, any mouse that you get with your computer is going to look like this, or it's going to be attached to the computer itself if you're using a laptop. The problem with these options is they don't allow your hand to rest in a natural position. If I try to grip this mouse, you can see that it's way too small for my hand. I'm having to tense my muscles to get around this mouse. And then I'm going to have to move my arm like this to get the mouse to go where I want it to go. So I'm adding the tension to my hand and to my wrist and the movement from my shoulder. And I'm doing that day after day, hour after hour. Over time, that's going to cause what we call repetitive injuries. We do the same actions so many times that pretty soon the muscles and the tendons and the ligaments start to complain, and you're going to get pain. If you don't fix it, that pain is going to get worse until eventually you may have a chronic problem that you can't get rid of. First solution is to buy yourself an extra mouse. I recommend something like this. The good thing about it is the size that allows your hand to just rest and relax on top of it. You're not crunching, you're not having to tense up your fingers and your wrists to hold on to it. You can just relax. All you have to do is move this trackball. That's it. Move that with your finger and you can leave the mouse in exactly the position where it is and still get where you need to go. There are also other mice that are similar. They stand up tall, but rather than having a trackball like this, they have buttons on the side. But they still stand up taller than your normal mouse, so you can rest your hand on it and relax it, so you're not having to maintain that tension all throughout the day. The second thing I want to talk about is your keyboard. Most keyboards that come with your desktop or that are on your laptop are unnatural for your hands. Here's the one that came with my Macintosh. You can see that it's just straight. There's no bend to it, there's no angle. But if you stand up and rest your hands naturally, you'll see that they do not line up exactly straight like what a standard keyboard is. Give it a try. Just rest your hands in your lap and look down, and you'll see that the fingers are pointing toward one another. Your hands form a sort of inverted V shape. Your fingers do not stick out straight unless you make them. Problem is, that creates tension and strain. And the more you do that, especially if you're typing for hours every day, the more you're causing strain on the outside of this wrist, on either side, and also perhaps on the inside as well. What fixes that sort of pain? What's called a split keyboard. I have one here to show you. You can see that it's set up at an angle. It fits your natural bend in your wrists. So you can just relax your hands on this keyboard and type a lot more easily. Now, I've recommended this kind of keyboard to a lot of other writers, and they've balked initially and said, well, that looks weird. I don't know if I could learn to type on that. I promise you, you can. It may take you a day or two. It may feel a little uncomfortable at first, but trust me, it's well worth the time to adjust to it. I will also put a link to this one that I have below, but there are several options that you can get. Keep in mind, even if you work on a Mac, a Windows keyboard will still work for you. It's just that some of the shortcut keys will be a little different. You'll have to learn Windows shortcuts as opposed to Mac shortcuts. This one that I just showed you is actually for Windows, but I use it on my Mac just fine. Now the third thing. Back pain, that is a bigger thing to tackle. The first thing I would tell you if you're suffering from back pain is to get up more often. Get up every 30 minutes, walk around, and stretch. That is one of the best things you can do for yourself. I'd also suggest getting an adjustable standing desk, one that you can change about every hour or so. Research has shown that standing the whole time isn't the answer. You don't want to get a desk and then just stand the whole day because that comes with its own set of problems. You want something to where you can sit for a while and then stand for a little while. Get the best chair you can get for your home office chair. Having a comfortable chair makes all the difference. You want one that has a built-in lumbar support if you can, and that has a good cushion underneath you. Try not to get one that has too much of a flare on the outside edges, because that's going to cause hip pain over time. You want a pretty flat cushion that just has some give to it so that you will feel comfortable throughout the day. Now, there are some people that will say, get the most expensive chair you can for your home office, particularly if you're working on the computer full-time. I can tell you from experience that you don't really have to do that. You can get a mid-range chair and still do really well with it. And in fact, getting one that costs you, $800 to $1,000, that's not going to be any better than one that costs you between $150 and $300. That's about the range where the really good chairs are. Go lower than that, you're not going to have one that you're going to be able to sit in for very long and feel very comfortable. But you don't necessarily have to go higher than that for all these fancy chairs they're coming out with now. Just a good chair with a good lumbar support, a nice flat cushion underneath. Then get up more often and get a desk setup that allows you to stand at least part of the time. Then I would suggest to you, especially if you're already starting to feel some pain, one other tool that I got last year that I really like. It's called the Backshield, and I got it initially to use in my car. A lot of people end up having back problems and sciatica and issues like that because the car seats these days just don't seem to be very comfortable. Here it is, and I'll give you a link to this below. And I just happened to come upon this when I was doing some research for some sort of a lumbar support that I could use in the car. And I'll try to get this to where you can see it on the screen. It's a harder support than you might think. And I tried many of the soft, cushy ones, but they felt really odd and awkward and didn't really help at all. I was taking them out after like 10 minutes. This one you can see has this nice natural curve to it. And the company that put this together put a lot of research into it to make it just right. And I don't have an affiliate relationship with them. I'm just telling you because I love it. It kind of is a material that is soft and squishy when you push it, but it's firm enough that when you rest back against it, it feels really good, especially if you're someone who is suffering from back pain regularly. It's called the Backshield. It has these little straps on it that you can strap around your chair, and this one up here that you can put over the top of the chair. And I was just using it in the car initially, and what was interesting was I tried it for a couple of days, and it felt a little funny at first because it is a little more firm than most of the other lumbar supports you'll find out there. But after a couple of days, I noticed that if I took it off, I wanted it back, like within 5 minutes. I was like, oh, wait a minute, bring that back. It felt a lot better. So rather than, so many of the soft cushions, you kind of collapse into it. This helps keep you up and keep you straight. And I was really convinced of it when I went home for Christmas, 8-hour drive, and I arrived with significantly less pain than I usually have after an 8-hour drive. I was like, this thing is great. I have now started to bring it in and use it in my office chair as well. If I know I'm going to be sitting for a while, and I do the stand and sit part of the time, but if I want to really get into a project and maybe work for an hour steady, I will use this on the chair as well, just because it provides that same nice support to a good posture. What happens when we're working at the computer is we start to kind of, slump, and we go into this, forward shoulder kind of head jutting out position. And that's what causes so many of the back problems. And it's really hard if you're working all day at the computer not to gradually, start to feel that fatigue and surrender to that bad posture. If you have this sitting behind you, you can just push yourself back into that support, and it's so much easier to maintain a good posture, and you come out with a lot less pain after a long day spent at the computer. So once again, I'll put links to each of those products in case you want to go check them out further. I would encourage you, do everything you can to make your home office comfortable, somewhere you go and you feel good when you're there. You don't want to be feeling pain, especially if you're writing a lot. You don't want to feel like, you know, my hands are hurting too much, or my back is hurting too much to write today. I don't want that to stop you. So invest in yourself in these tools. It is important. It's not self-indulgent. You're doing this to support your dreams, to support your writing, and perhaps to support your work as well.